All right, let's dive into something pretty amazing. We're talking about one of the greatest scientific collaborations in history. The story of how scientists from all over the world teamed up to build a single, searchable library for the blueprint of all life on Earth.
So think about this for a second. How do you organize the blueprint for all life on Earth? I mean, it's a massive question, right? With the explosion of genetic sequencing technology, scientists suddenly had the ability to read the DNA of countless organisms. And that was amazing, but it also created this colossal new problem.
Yeah, scientists were basically facing a tsunami of genetic data, and they had no way to organize it. I want you to imagine this. It's like having millions of priceless books that hold the secrets to life itself, but they're just scattered all over the globe. No central library, no card catalog, not even a simple list, just chaos. So how could anyone possibly find what they needed in all of that?
Well, to solve this absolute data chaos, the international scientific community stepped up in a big way. They basically said, okay, we need to become the world's genetic librarians. And their solution wasn't just to build one library, but to create a whole network of them, all designed to work together as one big unified system.
And here they are, the three pillars of this whole operation. You've got GenBank in the US covering the Americas, then there's the EMBL database over in Europe, and in Asia you have the DDBJ, the DNA databank of Japan. These three institutions, they're basically the heroes of this story.
But here's the thing. Just having three separate databases, that wasn't the real solution. I mean, that could have just created three separate messes, right? No, the real breakthrough, the absolute game changer, was the agreement they all made to work together, to share everything, every single day.
And that's the core idea, captured right here. They are separate, but they act as one. It's a simple but powerful principle. They all agreed to collect and share all the public sequence data. This made sure that no piece of genetic info would ever get lost or stuck in some isolated database. It means a scientist in Japan has access to the exact same data as a scientist in Germany or Brazil, instantly.
Okay, so let's walk through how this daily sync actually works. It's pretty cool. Let's say a researcher in Tokyo discovers a new gene sequence and submits it to DDBJ. Then, overnight, while a lot of the world is sleeping, that data gets processed and automatically sent over to its partners, GenBank and EMBL. So, by the next morning, bam, that exact same record is available to everyone, everywhere from all three sites. It's this beautiful, seamless, 24-hour sync of global knowledge.
Okay, so the libraries are all connected, they're sharing data constantly. Awesome. But that brings up the next big question. How do you keep track of everything? How do you make sure that when you're looking for a specific gene, you can find the exact same book, no matter which of the three libraries you're visiting?
The answer is something called an accession number. And the best way to think about it is like an ISBN on the back of a book. It's a totally unique, permanent code that's assigned to one specific genetic sequence. Once you have that code, you can use it to pull up the exact same data from any of the three databases. It's the system's way of guaranteeing you're looking at the exact right piece of information.
But, a unique code is great, but it's not enough, is it? An ISBN tells you which book it is, but it doesn't tell you what the book is about. For this data to be actually useful, scientists need context. They need to know, what organism did this come from? What does this gene actually do?
And that's where the next crucial step comes in. Annotation. Honestly, without annotation, a genetic sequence is just a long, meaningless string of letters. A's, T's, C's, and G's. Annotation is all that essential context that gets attached to the raw data. It's like the little summary on a library catalog card. It tells you the organism, what the gene does, who discovered it, and it even links you to the scientific paper where it was first published. Annotation is what turns raw data into actual usable scientific knowledge.
So we've talked about the organization, the syncing, the accession numbers, but why does any of this really matter? Well, this is where it all pays off. This global library, this whole system, it's not just some triumph of data management. It is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful tools we have in modern science for understanding our world and, importantly, for improving human health.
I mean, look at how scientists use this database. It's incredible. During a pandemic, they can track how a virus is evolving almost in real time. Medical researchers can hunt for the specific genes that cause hereditary diseases. Biologists are literally mapping out the entire evolutionary tree of life using this data. And bioengineers are digging through it to find new enzymes that could do amazing things, like create biofuels or even break down plastics. All of this is possible because of this one unified library.
So, what started out as a solution to a pretty serious data management problem has blossomed into one of humanity's greatest scientific achievements. This thing is a living, breathing library. It holds petabytes of data. That's thousands of trillions of genetic letters containing the code for pretty much all known life on this planet. And the best part? It's freely available to anyone, anywhere who has a question to ask.
And for me, that's the most exciting part of this whole story. The library is built. It's organized. It's open to the entire world. So the only real question left is, what incredible discovery will we ask it to help us find next?